Hello, I'm Donald Leggett, and welcome to this edition of Share Views, brought to you by London South East. Our guest today is John Wisbey, Chairman and CEO of International Lithium Corp, the TSX-listed lithium miner with interests in Canada and Argentina, and with the Gangfeng Lithium as a shareholder. Hello, John. Welcome to London South East. I believe this is your first time.
Yes, it is. So thank you very much for having me on here.
No, it's great to have you. Could I start by summarising International Lithium Corp? So for those who are not familiar with you, tell us who you are.
Okay. We're a TSXV listed mining exploration company specialising in lithium and battery metals. I suppose I'd probably say specialising in lithium, but when you drill for lithium, you find there are other metals like tantalum, rubidium, cesium, and so on. So you can never just specialise in one field, but that's what we specialise in. We're both in there are two types of lithium deposit. One is brine, which is salt flats, and the other is pegmatite, which is hard rock, which we drill for. We're doing both, and we feel we're quite well diversified there. And we've got we stress good partnerships with people, and you mentioned the one with Gangfeng. We also have one with a company called Pioneer Resources in Australia. So we're that's good. And we're looking to get a lot bigger.
And you've got holdings in interests in Argentina and also in Raleigh in Canada.
So we've got.
So which is brine and which is pegmatite?
So brine is called Mariana in Argentina, and then pegmatite is Raleigh Lake, which is the one I'm keenest on. Mavis Lake, which we have as a joint venture, and also one in Ireland called Avalonia, and which is again a joint venture with Gangfeng.
I didn't realise you had an Irish holding. Okay. So what's your strategic direction now? You've restructured the business, you've refinanced the business to an extent. Mm-hmm. Where are you going now?
Yep. Well, I took over the company when it was at a time of some difficulty. I mean, it had committed to a lot of expenditure, and I had to raise about $5 million Canadian dollars in the last year to make sure that we funded all that expenditure and also tidied up the balance sheet a bit. And we also made a big decision to focus on Raleigh Lake, and we acquired some more property around there. Some more, you don't acquire property, but we acquired mineral rights, and we staked out some more claims. And
which is a clever thing to do if it all works out. And you hope it will.
Let's hope so. Yeah, I certainly believe so. And so now we're trying to really move forward, particularly with Raleigh Lake as a wholly owned, royalty-free, mortgage-free deposit with extremely promising geology.
Okay, let's. You've got a major, a shareholder in Gangfeng.
Yep.
So Gangfeng are a shareholder, plus you're working with them on two different projects.
That's correct.
So let's drill down on Gangfeng and what do they bring to the party?
Well, when the company took them as a shareholder in about 8 years ago, they were an emerging Chinese player in the lithium space, but it was a good choice. I mean, they've really emerged now. They're a very big player in the lithium space.
So largest in China, I understand.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly on some measures, and probably the largest in the world on some measures. And they've become a much more mature company. So, very good partner to have chosen. They own about 11.5% of the company. We're happy to have them there. They're also the majority owner in the Mariana project in Argentina and the Avalonia project in Ireland, but not in the Canadian properties at this point.
And when you work with someone like Gangfeng, it's not simply that they're a sleeping partner, I would imagine. Do they give you access to technology? Do they give you access to capital? What do they bring in those terms?
I think all of the above. I mean, there are pluses and minuses of working with any big company, and
it is what it is.
So if you're a small partner and you've got a bigger partner and you're a minority, then you're naive if you expect you're going to make most of the decisions. But on the other hand, they are strong. They're reasonably fair. They are good people to work with.
But hopefully they'll take you to places that you wouldn't get to without them.
Yeah, and I mean, clearly by the time you've got to their scale, anybody who's got new technology, any salesman will put them on the calling list and we want to show it to you. So information flows to a large company better than it does to a small company. So they know a lot about technology. They've also got their own mineral deposits in China, so in Tibet, for example, and they know a lot about the processes that work to extract lithium from brine, for example. So yes, they add value on that front as well.
Okay, so what's special about Raleigh Mine? I understand it's got geological similarities to Tanko.
Yeah.
Tell me about Tanko and that whole thing.
So I'm really excited about. We call it Raleigh Lake. So I'm really excited about it.
And is Raleigh Lake a lake when you get there?
There is a lake, yes. I mean, so part of it's marshland, part of it is just Canadian countryside. But it's, first of all, it's got very promising geology, which is important. Come back to that. Secondly, it's in good location. I mean, there are places that we've come across which have very good geology, but they're 500 miles from anywhere and there are no roads. So guess what? I mean, the cost of extracting lithium or any other quantity from there is rather prohibitive. So this is very near the Trans-Canada highway, so good access to the Great Lakes. The geology, again, it was originally looked at by some people who were looking for tantalum, and they found tantalum, but they didn't find enough to make it really interesting, and they found a lot of lithium, but that wasn't what they were looking for, so they kind of abandoned it, and then and we took it over. We're obviously keen on the lithium, and we've talked to some expert geologists who were involved in several years ago in looking at it, and it absolutely seems to have a lot of the characteristics that the Tanko project at Burnick Lake had. So it's got shallow inclines of lithium pegmatite. It's got it's got gabbro in the right kind of the right kind of geology. We know there's lithium here, but we haven't drilled here. So it may just stop exactly where we stopped drilling where people stopped drilling last time, but it probably doesn't. But of course, we can't prove it until we drill some more.
So do you see it as a mini Tanko?
Look, I mean, we're all entitled to our dreams, but I mean it actually has very promising geology, and so.
But those are dreams. Those are the dreams you're paid to dream.
Yeah, I'm not only paid to dream, but I've put my own money into that dream. So and I've put about $4 million Canadian into this company of my own money, not founder equity, and I believe in this one. And so of course, until you've actually done the drilling, you can't say, well, this is what we're going to find at the end of the drilling, because we haven't done it. But,
so what are your next steps at Raleigh Lake?
Right. So we're doing at the moment an aerial drone survey. We expect to get the results of that fairly quickly. That will give us some good pointers as to whether we're, what is the high level geology. It won't tell us there's lithium here in that concentration or here, because aerial drone surveys can't do that. I mean, if we were looking for iron, they could do a bit more, because they could say it's more magnetic and here's iron, but.
Is it worth doing a drone survey therefore?
Yeah. Well, certainly our geologists think so. So, and I believe so too. I mean, it tells you things. It tells you partly what to do and partly what not to do, but it doesn't tell you exactly what to do. So we've done that. The next stage is to drill about 20 holes, probably with a total depth of combined depth of about 2,500 meters. We believe those 20 holes will be instrumental in telling us we really have got something major here, which is company making, actually we need to drill a bit more to establish that. But obviously we hope the former. But that process, as I said, we've raised about $5 million Canadian in the last year to straighten things out. Now we need about another $1 million for this. We are fundraising at the moment, and about 600,000 of that is needed for the drilling, 400,000 for other things that companies need to operate.
You have another holding, 15% of Mariana,
Correct.
Which is in the LatAm Lithium belt,
Yes.
as it's known. So it's based in Argentina. What kind of a prospect is that? It's a brine. It's brine as opposed to pegmatite.
Yes.
It's your other partner, the major partner is Gangfeng once again.
Yes, Gangfeng.
Is that going as fast as you'd hoped?
I better not say glacial, because in Argentina they just passed a glacial law saying you can't drill near glaciers, but it's taken a few years, but it's now on the right track, and so it's further advanced for us than Raleigh Lake, because we've already got the resource estimates. We published those. I think there are.
Were those positive?
Those are very positive, yeah. And so then there was a PEA done in November last year, which gave again, I'd stress these are the consultants' valuations. I'm not allowed to give valuations, but but they were $192 million for the whole mine, and that was with resource estimates that left out other bits which are still to be proven. So it's likely to go up rather than go down.
But 192 million, did that make you all happy?
No, well, I mean, I'd like more, but we own 15% of it, and it's way more than our market cap just for that. So if that's the right way of looking at it, and so yes, it's a very sizable deposit. I actually don't think that the likely outcome is to ship concentrated brine to China. I think it's more likely that we'll be looking at membrane and solvent extraction technology on site. That is more likely, in my view, to improve the economics than to make it worse.
So that may be the new plans, you think?
Maybe the new plans. But that's absolutely an exciting project at the moment.
But you learn as you go, don't you?
Yeah, sure. But
Yes.
Brine is a less established chemistry than, for example, drilling for gold in South Africa. People have done that before, whereas taking lithium out of brine deposits hasn't been done for all the last 10 years.
Let's take an overview and go back to the electrical vehicles. Lithium is now a major component of electric vehicles.
Of the batteries in electric vehicles.
Of the batteries
yes.
in electric vehicles,
yes.
And the electric vehicle segment of the car market is set to explode
yes.
as soon as the middle of the next decade, from 1% to 15%. So why is the lithium price in the doldrums, though?
It's a very good question. Thank
you.
I don't.
But it is a bit of a mystery.
It's a very good question. I mean, I don't believe actually 15% is likely. I think it's more likely to be 50. I mean, I cannot see that you or I were buying a diesel car in 5 or 10 years' time.
So we're not even talking exponential growth. We're talking huge growth.
We're talking much more. So then there's an extra dynamic of driverless cars, and what will that do to demand for cars? But so to be clear, the lithium goes into the battery. The electric cars need batteries. The batteries have a chemistry. There are different chemistries and different batteries, but lithium seems to be a very solid component of all those batteries. Some have more manganese, some have less manganese, some have more nickel, some have less nickel, but they consistently have a large element of lithium.
What does the lithium do in that electric battery?
I'm not a battery chemist, but it makes the thing work. So I guess you've got the cathode and the anode, and they have different compositions, and it's used for storing electricity and then allowing it to fuel up whatever you want to power, like your iPhone or your Tesla.
Great. Now, we had Paul Milcreast, the Hardman mining analyst, in here a few weeks ago, and he was making the very valid point that the car manufacturers are quite sensibly rushing to capture what they can in terms of lithium supplies.
Yes,
they think this is a very valuable commodity without which they're stuffed.
Yeah, they are.
So why is the price still in the doldrums? It is a little bit of a conundrum.
And I don't think it will remain like that. I mean, so
it's
yes.
all about supply demand balance,
yes, I mean,
isn't it?
for example, our partner Gangfeng in the last year has signed up Volkswagen, BMW, and Tesla as partners to supply lithium to. Now, I don't know the exact contract details, and they wouldn't be relevant to disclose here anyway. But I guess these are agreements where those car manufacturers can rely on Gangfeng to take a certain amount of lithium as and when it's needed, and that's great.
These seems incredibly relevant and positive in terms of the lithium price going forward.
Exactly. So I mean, the only thing is that it's obvious that demand will go up tremendously. So the question is, and there's always going to be somebody who says, "Oh yes, but supply is going to go up fast too," which it better be true, otherwise there won't be enough. But they'll say it will go up too fast.
But big lithium projects take a long time to get online.
They do.
Not only that, but they're fraught with difficulties.
Some of them, yes. I mean, particularly some of the ones in South America have taken a long time. The ones in Australia, hard rock, rather like our Raleigh Lake in Canada, seem to have been rather more of a predictable process.
So brine harder, pegmatite
has been. So I think brine is better understood now, and that won't be the case in the future. But things have taken much longer than expected. Pegmatite, that seems not to be the case. One of the reasons I'm very keen on Raleigh Lake.
Okay, let's take once again an even larger overview and ask what influence do China have on the entire lithium market? Put that in context for us.
I think. There's no doubt. Lithium. China has a very large influence. I mean, there's Gangfeng, there's Tianji. There are other Chinese companies that are producers of lithium. A lot of the consumers are Chinese. I mean, there are a huge number of Chinese car companies now that we've never heard of in the West, but I expect in 10 years' time we will have. And I mean, they're all working according to a state plan which says you've got to have electric cars, and they're following it and doing rather well. So, I mean, I think it's just like rare earths. China has gobbled up a very large part of the world's lithium resource, lithium supply, lithium industry, and frankly, I think America's waking up rather late to it, but it's that's happening now. So we see that as good for us as well, because the more that America wakes up, the more they're going to want to source some lithium supply themselves. We've got some.
My final question: what are the next milestones for you, and why should people think of in the UK think of investing in a TSX company in Canada?
I'll answer that on a number of levels. Firstly, the management are very committed. I mean, I personally have said what I put into the company myself. Our board have also put in quite a bit of money, so that's a good indicator. There's absolutely no doubt that we're in the right place at the right time. I mean, lithium is only going to have more and more demand. I think, especially in Canada, we're very well placed with the Make America Great Again initiative and the whole procurement by the West of supplies from the West. And
lithium would appear to fall into strategic supply territory, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. I mean, it's very high on the list. And some of the stuff that probably is, that we know rubidium's there as well. That would apply to tantalum too. And last but not least, I mean, yes, it's quoted in Canadian dollars. You can also buy it in euros in Frankfurt. You can also buy it in US dollars in America. But it's got nothing to do with Brexit. It's a Canadian company. If you're worried about Brexit, it's nothing to do with Brexit. So it's a good Brexit hedge.
Very good. John Wisbey, that was fascinating. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Donald, thank you very much.
Thank you to John. John is the chairman and CEO of International Lithium Corp, listed on TSX, the Canadian Stock Exchange. So thank you very much indeed for joining us. If you want to see more interviews like this one, subscribe to London Southeast. Thank you very much indeed for watching.